So, what's the bad news? More orcs rampaging through the docks? Or have those infernal statues sent another soul flying to his death? Sad story, that. Though if I'm speaking plainly, the sentimental aspect of it all doesn't make much of an impression on an undertaker. Especially not these days, with so many laid low by the orcs and such like. I just concern myself with giving the remains a respectable exit from life. We set him to rest in the northern graveyard. Perhaps he can finally get a little peace. What about it? Didn't I just say we gave it a respectable send-off? Why are you giving me the third degree? Now, if you don't mind, I'm trying to run a business here.
Perhaps he wants to tell us something.
Hey! Wow! I was wondering where that awesome sweaty boot smell was coming from. And here you are! Wow! This is great! I'm Murphy, Jake's dog. Wow! You smell great! Have you been rolling around on dead things all day? That's my favourite hobby too. If I ever find out who killed Jake, the most awesome Jake who ever jaked, I'll bark so much! Seriously, so much! You have no idea! You know who I miss? Jake. Sometimes he'd just sit there being awesome. And I'd give him this look like, you smell great. And he'd give me this look like, you do too, Murphy. And he was my best friend. I came here so I could smell Jake again. He smelled great. But whatever's buried there doesn't smell like Jake at all. No, it's definitely not Jake. He was awesome.
Please, darling.
Lies Kavanagh. Will they have Sisio pie in the afterlife? Here lies Jake. Please do not disturb.
I smell...
What energy is this? That's not Jake.
It's a rotting sheep's corpse. It seems someone snatched Jake's body. I've got my eyes on the prize. Looks like the Mortician has reason to suspect Mayor Cecil, Captain Aureus, Evelyn, and Esmeralda of something.
So, what's the bad news? More orcs rampaging through the... How do you... Ah, the ledger, is it? Fool was I to leave it in the open. Or perhaps I even looked forward to being found out. Well, as you know, I have my suspects in the matter. What would you like to know? Plenty of us shopkeepers entrust the mayor with the spare keys to our businesses, you know? And he's the only person in town with a second copy of the key to the mortuary. He could have used it to sidle in without a peep, if he were so inclined. Aureus himself paid me a visit the night the body was delivered. Came rapping at my door in the frosty morning before the sun had even started peeping, and told me to tell him, and only him, if I noticed anything strange or suspicious about the remains. Can't see why he'd bothered to go through all that trouble, unless he knew something the rest of us don't. I know it sounds strange suspecting the doctor's apprentice of something so ghoulish as this, but there's few in this city could manage to transport a corpse without raising eyebrows. It was she who delivered Jake's body from the inn to the mortuary. And there was something about her that night. Some kind of excitement. Seemed she could barely contain her thoughts. That there was something thrilling about to happen. I can't quite settle it in my mind how a young medical professional would have such a strange reaction to an occasion such as that. And this may or may not have anything to do with the whole rigmarole. But her master, Dr. Theleron, bought an old shack of mine, one overtaken by undead, for an exorbitant price considering what he was getting. I never did figure what he wanted it for, but he sure seemed eager. I never saw a widow less distraught at the death of her husband, and I've seen hundreds pass through my parlor. It was she who rang my bell just before the body was snatched, lured me outside claiming she needed air, before discussing the funeral arrangements. Some accomplice could have sneaked in and grabbed the remains while I was comforting the oh-so-overcome Esmeralda. That gold's the only good thing to come out of this blasted affair, and I certainly plan on making some use of it. You know, I reckon Bertia really didn't get a fair shake in all this, did she? Here, take the money and give it to her. Times are hard enough as they are.